So what you're about to hear right now is a $15 story. And see, me and my son, we have this agreement that if I ever use my son for a sermon example, I owe him $5. But this one was juicy. This story is very embarrassing, so I had to up my ante. It's $15. I had to buy him some joggers and a funny designer shirt that he wanted. So you're about to hear a good story right now because it cost me a lot. But if you will look at me, one look at me, and you'll know that I'm not afraid of needles at all. I'm not afraid of needles. But that trait didn't pass on to my son. He is very afraid of needles. And he hadn't had to get shots at the doctor for a very long time. And I say no to some, say yes to others. But I like to play tricks on him because he is so afraid of these things. And the running joke in our family is, are you serious? Because when he's acting up a little bit, I'll wait till the next day and I'll get him good by saying, oh, I forgot to tell you, Gabriel. Tomorrow we got to go to the doctors, and I know it's been a couple of years, but it's time for your shots for 5th grade. And he goes, are you serious? Like he's fighting back tears as an almost 12-year-old, fighting back tears. And then I say, no, I'm just playing. And then he'd run away, oh, you're horrible, Dad. I'm like, are you serious? Are you serious? So whenever something goes bad in our family, that's kind of our little inside joke. But eventually that joke couldn't work anymore because he actually did need to get his next round of shots. This happened a couple weeks ago. And I'm so grateful that Nikki, she takes Gabe to all his, cavity fillings, all his shots, all the doctor's appointments, because I can't handle that stuff. She is so good. She's so patient. She holds his hand the whole time. She leads him in prayer. She reminds him. She takes all the time that he needs to build up courage. Not me. I'm like, come on, dude. You play hockey. Really? Really? You want me to tell the nurse again, get you another shot? Yeah, I'm bad. I'm really bad. So I don't do that. She takes care of all that. But the time came that he had to get his shots. And so we prepped him, and we let him know, hey, in a couple weeks, you just got to deal with it, buddy. You're going to get a couple shots, all right? And he got worked up, but for a kid, they know in a couple weeks, that may seem like an eternity for them. So, I got a couple weeks, but the day finally came. And of course, he was falling apart. Just like when he gets his cavities filled, he cries through the whole thing. And Nikki always has to tell the hygienist or whoever's performing the filling, just do it, okay? Just tell him exactly what you can do. He's going to cry through the whole thing. Don't wait till he gets comfort. Just go. Just do it. So he's all worked up. His blood pressure is always through the roof every time he knows something's going to happen. And so finally, he's there. And Nikki and me went to the extent of getting numbing cream. Topical numbing cream to help with the pain. So he's worked up, he's crying, he's sitting there, and the moment the needle touches his skin, his face goes straight and he goes, oh man, I'm so embarrassed. That didn't even hurt. Oh, I'm such a weenie. I can't believe I cried. Oh my, the whole ride home, I'm so embarrassed. That didn't hurt at all. I'm so embarrassed, And we laughed so hard because now he has a newfound confidence. But isn't it amazing how much pain affects us? How much we will go out of our way to avoid pain? How much we try to numb our pain? How much we try to do something other than pain? We work so extremely hard to get rid of pain. But the reality is, in our life, we all are going to experience some type of pain. It's one of the promises that God has for us, which is like, well, thanks for that one, God. In this world, you will have tribulation. Thanks. That's one of those promises I'll try to forget about, not memorize the scripture, but we will face loss in our families. We will face sickness. We will have spouses that run off on us and kids that are rebellious and finances that go into the negative. There's a lot of things that we can experience in life that brings about pain. And if you sat under my teaching for a long time, you know that me and pain don't get along as far as theology. Because see, I'm the type of person that believes that God has given us authority, that the enemy has been rendered powerless, that we have the same power that rose Christ from the grave living inside of us. So if we have access to all of those things, we should not be experiencing pain. If we experience a sickness, we have authority to heal. If we experience a sadness, we have the joy of the Spirit supernaturally. So I, for a very long time, was preaching about how the Christian should be an overcomer and should have breakthrough after breakthrough and glory after glory, and pain should be a very minimal thing, just because of what God has done for us and what He has given to us and how He has equipped us. But see, in the last 2 years, I really had to rethink my stance on pain. As you know, the last 2 years, we left the church and we're thinking of moving to Texas and other places, and Nikki got a diagnosis, and Gabriel's entering his teenage years, and there's been so much in these last 2 years that I can honestly describe the last 2 years as being so beautiful. It was such a season of growth, but boy, was it painful. And pain after pain, and once we got a victory in one area, here came another trouble. And it just seemed relentless and not stopping. So I got to a point, and I had a conversation with God, and I just said, Lord, either I'm in disobedience, or I'm a horrible Christian, because I'm experiencing pain after pain after pain. What is really going on? And so I've had to change my view, and what I've learned in the last 2 years, experiencing pain and walking in this journey with God, is that just because I'm going through a suffering, it doesn't mean I have to suffer. Just because I'm going through a trial doesn't mean I have to lose my peace. So I don't have to suffer in the suffering. And I also learned, wow, I just went through the fire and I didn't get burned. We can go through the trial and not experience the trauma, the tragedy, or the lingering effects of sadness and sorrow and depression when we go through the fire. And I've come to the conclusion that God, and He's good, but God sometimes will keep us from the pain, but other times God will be with us in the pain and we'll go through it together. And I know that from the book of Daniel. In the book of Daniel, we have great stories, but in Daniel chapter 6, Daniel was thrown in the lion's den. And God saved him from the mouth of the lion. The lions didn't touch him, scratch him, eat him, bite him, even scare him. He was there in worship all night long, and the angel kept the lions back. So he was saved from that. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was a different story. A 7 times hotter furnace was before them, and God didn't save them from going into it. They went into it. But not only did they not get burned, but they didn't even smell like the smell of smoke when they came out. And Jesus was right there in the midst. And the result of them going through the pain, going through the trial, on the other side was the most massive revival we have ever seen in the history of the world. So God knows what He's doing. And He's a good God. And we live in a fallen world with the influence of the enemy's lies. So we will encounter pain. And I heard from God so clearly 2 weeks ago saying that if my people want to walk in my promise, they need to learn how to process their pain. Could it be that we're not experiencing the fullness of God's promises for our lives because we're so held back by our pain? So consumed by numbing our pain, so consumed by avoiding our pain, so consumed by pain being this thing that's making me feel like a victim, that we're missing out on what God is saying, where He is leading, and there's a promise waiting for us, but He's not going to push us into that promise. Right. Much like the Israelites walking through the wilderness, God's not forcing them into there. It's when their hearts stop complaining. It's when they stop focusing on their lack and they started looking to their God. Like Joshua, who said, I know there's giants in the land, but we can do this. It's the attitude of saying, no, I can process this and walk into something that's very great, a promise that God has for me. And there's a great example, and it amazed me that today I'm only speaking on 3 verses in the Bible. But there's a story of Paul who really showed us a great tool on how to process pain. So if you have your Bibles, go with me to 2 Corinthians. We're in 2 Corinthians chapter 12. I'm like looking for it, and I already put my bookmark in there. Silly me. And I'm reading out the New American Standard, as always. And we're going chapter 12, verse 7. Again, 2 Corinthians, chapter 12, verse 7. And this is the famous story of Paul's thorn in the flesh. And I'm just going to read these verses, and we're going to really break these things down, because there's great revelation found in here that helps us through our pain. Verse 7. Because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, so God had really been downloading amazing revelations of grace and power and victory over the enemy. God had been giving them so much revelation. So because of that, for this reason, to keep me from exalting myself, there was given me a thorn in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me, to keep me from exalting myself. Concerning this, I implored the Lord 3 times that it might leave me. And He said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. Power is perfected in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, I would rather boast about my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may dwell in me. Therefore, I am well content with weaknesses, with insults, with distresses, with persecution, with difficulties. For Christ's sake, when I am weak, then I am strong. And see, we look at that verse and we think, wow, Paul really went through a suffering. Paul really had pain, and God was ignoring him. He said, God, I have this pain. I'm your apostle. I'm planting churches. I'm changing the world. I'm probably going to die doing what I'm doing. And now I got this thorn in my side. Take it from me. Please just take my pain away from me. And God told him 3 times, my grace is sufficient. And sometimes we look at that as God brushing him off and just saying, well, deal with it. You know, just live with it. And I don't really believe that that's what the scripture is saying. The first thing I want us to notice is that Paul, in this moment here, discovered that there is a reason for the pain. And I believe the reason for his pain, the thorn in the flesh, was actually people. Do we believe that people can cause pain in our lives? Amen? And this is why I believe it was people. The thorn in the flesh. Many people try to interpret the thorn in the flesh as being a sickness or like a temptation that Paul was facing all the time. Some scholars are like, well, in that region at that time, it was probably malaria. Paul was facing malaria and about to flare up and he was facing malaria. Okay, I don't know where you get that, but great, that's your theory. My own personal theory is to interpret Bible with Bible. So when I see thorn in the flesh in the New Testament, I want to see where does God talk about thorn in the flesh in other places. And when I remember, I think it's Numbers 13, or somewhere in Numbers, where God tells them, when you go into this land, you need to destroy the inhabitants, otherwise they will become a thorn in your flesh. So my personal opinion, and it doesn't matter what we believe about the thorn in the flesh, but my personal opinion is that it was people. People were constantly trying to get him down. When he's walking down the street, there's a fortune teller nagging him. Finally casts it out, he gets thrown in prison. People were constantly being a snare to him, and that's my own personal opinion. But people can cause problems. That's just a given in our lives. And we need to learn how to walk through life without criticism breaking us down. If we live by the criticism of man, we're going to die by the criticisms as well. You know, we got to get past in that section. But something else to notice is that a messenger was given to him to send this thorn in the flesh. Who was it? Was it God? It was Satan. So some people said, why God would you give me this sickness? Why God would you give me this pain? But the scripture plainly says, a messenger of Satan sent this thorn in the flesh. And yes, God could have stopped it. He could have prevented it. But he also gave you all authority in heaven, on earth, to also do the same thing. To stop it, to have authority and power over it as well. So a messenger from Satan sent the thorn in the flesh, not God. And that's so vital and so important to understand. And if you're taking notes, write down this. Point number 1 is that God is not the creator of pain. If we're going to be people who know how to process our pain and walk into the promise of God, we need to understand who the author of sickness and pain is, and it is not God. He is not the one to bless us with sickness. It is the enemy who wants to bring it as a distraction from the presence of God. I've been to many Bible colleges. I went to like 4 different colleges before I finally wrapped up my degree at one. And the first one that I went to was actually a Baptist, and I'm a Pentecostal by nature. So Baptist, Pentecostal, Bloods, Crips, you know what I mean. It's just, there's some things that don't mesh there. And so I went to this college, that this specific college believed in cessation, which means that the signs and wonders and miracles ended with the apostles in the 1st century. We don't believe that. We believe that we still can heal the sick and cast out demons and all those great things of the Spirit. So one day I get to school early for my class, and a couple other classmates are there. And they're talking, and one guy, he's just coughing up a lung. And we're looking like, are you okay? He goes, no, I'm not, but I have to be here. I can't miss one more class, and I got my second job I got to get to after this, and I can't miss another day, otherwise I'm not going to get paid. And one kid said, do you think God's trying to teach you something with this sickness? Do you think God is giving you the sickness so you'll finally slow down? And I looked at him and said, yep, I'm changing schools. No, God doesn't give us a sickness. God doesn't give us this pain. Jesus never gave a sickness to somebody. Jesus always healed the sickness. You don't see Jesus standing on the shore of the Sea of the Galilee and saying, okay, this storm, I'm going to throw it over to that city and it's going to teach them patience. He never did that. He never blessed the storm. He never did any of those things. Jesus always brought goodness and love and healing. And here's the bottom line. If you believe that God sent you the pain, if you believe God sent you the sickness, if you try to pray it away, or if you went to a doctor, you're in disobedience. Honestly, if you honestly believe God gave you cancer and you go to the doctor, you're in disobedience because you're going against the will of God for your life. But if you believe the enemy or the repercussions of this fallen world brought the pain or brought the sickness in your life, now you have authority and power to rise above it and to contend and to also partner with God so that you can see this thing healed in your life. So the way we see God is so vital when we walk through our pain. Because if you see God, you didn't give this to me. God, this is not your desire, your will for me. Then now I can stop and slow down and say, because it's not your will, God, I know you're here with me. And I know you desire greater things. You delight in the prosperity of your servant. So we welcome God when we understand He's not the creator of the pain. The next thing that I see from Paul is that he discovered that there is power in God's grace. There's power in God's grace. When he said to Paul, my grace is sufficient for you, he wasn't saying, just deal with it, just suck it up, just tolerate it. I don't believe we're supposed to tolerate pain. We're supposed to process it and go through it to get into the promise. But see, when he said, my grace is sufficient, that's a very powerful statement. Because grace, the way I interpret it, is unmerited favor. Something you didn't deserve, something you couldn't earn, that was freely given to you. And when I see grace, I see this cross. I see everything that Jesus accomplished on the cross to give to us freely. Healing, salvation, forgiveness, restoration, prosperity. That's the grace of God in our lives. We didn't deserve it, but when we received him, we got it. That's unmerited favor. So he says, my grace, the power to heal the sick and raise the dead and cast out demons, my grace is sufficient. And sufficient doesn't mean good enough. Sufficient in the Greek, when you break it down, the first definition of sufficient in the Greek, it means to be possessed of unfailing strength. To be possessed with unfailing strength. So he's crying out, this thorn in the flesh, the thorn in the flesh, God, take it from me, take it from me. And God's saying, what I have given to you has given you unfailing strength. You have the power to heal. You have the power to rebuke. You have the power to cast out. Stand upon the authority that I have given to you. So I see God saying, you're asking me to do something I've given you power to do. Have you ever prayed for something and wonder why it's not working? You're asking God to do something he's given you the authority to do. That's why sometimes we feel our prayers are bouncing on the ceiling. He's like, I've given it to you. I've already healed you. I've already blessed you. I've already given you all that you need. Go. Go. And see, when he says that what I've given to you is enough, that's also the ability that we can process our pain. That's the tool we need to process our pain. Because a lot of the times when we're in pain, we don't want to process it. We just want it gone. Okay? And hey, if you have cancer, you want it gone. If you have diabetes, you want it gone. You don't want to process, you just want it gone. Amen to that. Declare that. Believe that. But see, we can't in our lives say, God, just take this temptation away. God, just take this sin away. God, just take this person. Oh, take this person out of my life. Lord, take. Instead, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, don't take me from the fire. Because I know I can't get burned by the fire. But God, would you meet me in my fire? God, I'm in so much pain right now, and I know this is not you. So can you come into this fire with me, and hold me, and speak to me, and tell me what I need to do? I know everything's possible, but God, you've empowered me to be your representative, your ambassador on this earth, and no weapon formed against me will prosper. It's not feeling like that right now, God, but meet me here. Speak to me. Teach me. And so point number 2 is that God has equipped us for the pain. God gives us power in the pain. God gives us power in the pain. We always have access to a tool. Like many of us here have home remedies. We all have home remedies when we're sick, right? Grandma has that one soup that can cure cancer, you know? I grew up in a Hispanic household, so for me it was manzanilla, which is chamomile tea, menudo, your stomach hurts, drink a 7-Up, or Vicks. Vicks. And I'm not talking about Vicks. I'm talking about Vicks. Put the socks on. We all have home remedies. Basically, when something goes wrong, we have an action plan that we have stuck to that works every single time, and we go to it so that it works. Why is it that when we experience pain, it's like we're thrown off? Oh my gosh, how could this happen? Hey, it's no surprise to God. And it shouldn't be a surprise to us, because in this world we will face tribulation, but take heart. I have overcome the world. And I have put that same overcoming spirit in you so that you can rise up in your authority and be fully equipped to handle this. 2 Corinthians 9:8, it says that he has given us all grace so that we may abound in every good work. We have all sufficiency in all things, in every situation. We have the fullness of God's grace so that we can abound in every good work. We are fully equipped. So we need to ask ourselves, in the middle of our pain, to welcome God into that place, but then to ask him, okay, Father, what do you want me to do? You just got off the phone with your boss and you were laid off. Whew, pain, fear, worry, anxiety. God, this is not your plan. You want me to have jobs and better jobs, so I invite you here. What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to go to an interview, or I'm supposed to wait 2 weeks? I'm supposed to call a friend? I'm supposed to finally cash in that favor somebody owes me? What am I supposed to do right now, God? But we welcome him into the conversation and allow him to lead us in where we need to go. We need to understand that when God says, be still and know that I am God, he didn't say, stay still and know that I am God. It means wherever you go with the peace that only comes from him, a peace that transcends all understandings. And the last thing that I see from the life of Paul in this scripture here is that Paul stayed surrendered. He stayed surrendered. He said, well, God can send me this thorn, and I have power over this thorn, and God's grace is all that I need to overcome this thorn, so I'm going to boast about my weaknesses. It doesn't matter how weak I look, how humiliated I look, or what I feel I lack in my life. Guess what? I have all things in God. So if I keep myself and my flesh surrendered and let my spirit man rise up, he's always going to lead me into great and powerful things. The key, I believe, is that we need to declare the authority that we have over our situations, and the things that only God can do, we ask him to do. You know, like, we can't forgive somebody's sins. That's only something God can do. But we can't pray healing over them. So there are things that we do in our authority, and there's things that only God can do. So in this moment where we're trying to figure out, God, what is it that you want me to do? Recognize what he can do, and recognize what you can do. And you stay surrendered to only what you can do, and you allow God to do what only he can do. Because the bottom line is, we can't fix our situations. We can in the physical, we can't try with our money, but God is really the one who's going to fix our problems. And have you ever tried to change somebody's life? Have you ever tried to fix somebody's bad behavior? It doesn't work out too well. It's like, oh, my kid is so rebellious, I'm going to do everything to change them. And then instead we push them further and further away. Only the Spirit of God can touch a heart and melt it in affection and make that person want and desire to change their life. So we must submit ourselves and recognize that only God can. And I want to close with this, and again, just to kind of recap. We need to understand God didn't bring the pain. Okay? God is not the author of pain. And because of that, we can welcome him into our pain and hear what it is he wants us to do and stay surrendered to not get ahead of God, to let him do what he can do. Does that make sense? And this title, Bring the Pain, that I have in the series, you may be thinking, wow, this is pretty controversial, so to say. Why would we want to welcome pain? Bring the pain. Give me sickness. Give me a disease. Give me something. I'm not asking for bad things to come in our lives. I'm saying I don't care if the pain comes. That's what the series is designed to teach us. The series is designed to teach us that no matter what pain we go through, we're going to see the power of love and how that can rise up and overcome. And so today I want to just give a foundation of how we can process our pain. But next week I want to talk about what we can do that in the middle, before the breakthrough comes. How can we find peace in the pain? But I want to close with this story. A couple days ago, I heard a great testimony, and it shows that God can take our pain away at any moment. There's a process that we have to go through for our pain, but never give up the hope that God is a right now God. He's a God of miracles, and he can take your pain away today. Right? You may have a depression, and you may say, I don't know how long this is going to take. He can heal you today. He may take you through a process for his perfect timing, but he's still a God of the immediate. And so I heard this story. It was a teen conference, a Christian teen conference, and this Christian leader was teaching, and at the end of the first night of the conference, they go to like a Fridays or, like an Olive Garden or something, and they're all out there, and lots of kids from the conference are eating. And in the middle, there's this group of about 12 teenagers, and they're all eating, they're finishing up, and out of nowhere, they stand up and they leave. They dined and dashed. And this leader, he's looking at it, he's like, oh my gosh. Now these waiters are going to think this is what Christians do. They steal, they rob, they take and they don't give. So of course he goes over and he goes, hey, that group over there, the 12 kids, can you put their checks on my bill? I want to cover it. That was wrong. That's not how we do things. That's not who we are. And the manager says, yeah, no worries. We're not going to call the cops or anything. You go ahead and pay for it. But as he was driving back to the conference for the nighttime session, he was thinking, you know what? This is still wrong. Yeah, I covered it, but we didn't reverse the opinions of those people. We didn't give them a great example of what Christians really are. And so he said, we're going to go to the night session, and we're going to hold an offering. And that offering is going to be the tip that was owed to that waitress. And so he leads this big group of kids who have already spent all of their money on t-shirts. Obviously, they're not paying the bill at the restaurant. They've wasted all their money, but somehow in that room of teenagers, they were able to collect $2,700. How's that for you? Yeah, Christians are really nice. $2,700? I'll think a Jehovah's Witness is nice if you give me $2,700. And so they got this big KFC bucket of money, and they went back to the restaurant, and they put that bucket behind the backs, and they asked the manager and said, hey, is so-and-so still working? And he goes, yeah, why? And he goes, well, we feel that she was robbed of her tip and we want to give her one. Can you bring her up here? So the lady comes up and he says, hey, we're so sorry what happened. We just want to let you know that's not who Christians are. And because of that, we took an offering at our service tonight and we want to give you this, $2,700. She breaks down and collapses to the ground in tears. Ugly cry. Boogers. I mean, just gross. And of course, you know, she's a waitress. She probably could have used the money. But then the manager does the same ugly cry and collapses and hugs her, and they're crying together, swinging. And so the leader, he's like, awkward. What's going on? I know it's a lot of money, but it's not that much money. Like, why does this mean so much to you? And the manager stands up and he says, you don't understand. She had until tonight. She has been living in her car for the last 2 days. And she had until tonight to pay her $1,400 rent. Otherwise, Child Protective Services were going to take her daughter. She had until tonight, and you bring her a double portion. And so she is touched by the love of God. She ends up coming to that service after her shift is over, and she testifies about the goodness. She goes, I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in miracles. And my manager kept telling me to trust and to hope and to pray. And the day that I needed that money, he gave me double. Today I'm a believer of God. See, at any moment, God can take your pain away. And at any moment, you could be the instrument. You could be the tool that helps somebody process their pain. We're going to face trials. We're going to face horrible things in life. But we are never without a loving God. And we are never without brothers and sisters who can come alongside us as we walk through processing our pain. We can experience the fullness of his promises. Amen? Amen. Let's pray.